Our next reader is Molly Lazer. She is a second-year MFA candidate in at Rosemont. She teaches reading and drama and directs the fall play at Cheltenham High School. And in a former life was an editor at Marvel Comics. We always grill her about this. Where she worked on Avengers and Fantastic Four and headed up the team for cult favorite comic Spider-Girl. She hopes you enjoy her reading tonight.
Hello. Thank you everyone for coming. I wanted to give you a little background on my story before I started. In the last few years I spent some time out in Colorado. And while I was out there, I became completely obsessed with the Utah juniper tree, which is like the coolest tree ever, because what it does is it lives in the desert, and when you see these trees, they look like they're dead. They're weird and like twisted and like kind of curly, and there'll maybe be like one or two branches that are clearly alive, and everything else is dead. But if those one or two branches are still alive, then the whole tree is alive. It'll actually cut off nutrient flow to the rest of its branches to save some little ones. So it's a cool looking tree, and the way it works is really interesting. It also has tap roots big tap roots that it sends down. They can go down like 25 feet into the earth, and then it has lateral roots that go out over 100 feet away from the tree. So it's a cool tree. Meanwhile, hundreds of years ago in Germany, the Brothers Grimm wrote their story, The Juniper Tree, and the similarities between their story, The Juniper Tree, and what happens in it, and the way the Utah juniper works are really interesting, despite the fact that obviously the Brothers Grimm never saw a Utah juniper. I recommend that everyone read the Brothers Grimm Juniper Tree. It's thoroughly messed up. Parents killing kids, parents eating their kids, kids coming back and killing their parents. It's awesome. So this is my Juniper Tree story. This is The Juniper Tree, a love story. And there are 2 points of view. The first and last point of view is from the tree, and the middle point of view is from, a dead body. The Juniper Tree, a love story. The riverbed is far from my home, but my roots run deep underneath it. It is dry, parched, and there is no nourishment to be found. My trunk, bent like a broken mother's back, strains towards the earth. There are too many children to feed. I part with a grown limb, my eldest child, too big, too heavy, and pour its nourishment into the small green branch that brushes the dry grass. I have lost so many children, but they hang on, gnarled and twisted reminders of the sacrifices I have been forced to make. They weigh me down. Then, a gift. It is new and strange and only a trickle, but I breathe it in. Bones lie at the base of my trunk, covered with grass and dried flowers. A head, still bleeding the life that now flows through my veins. I suck it up greedily, and suddenly, I am awake. We were alone in the dark, together, boiling over flame, surprised and disjointed. We were thirsty. We were a sheep, and she pulled the wolf over our eyes. She came in the long ago time when we were an eye, a new mother to replace the old, shrouded in silver fur, fangs hidden. Father brought her back from the northeast by the fall. She was not alone. Wide brown eyes peeked out from behind stepmother's gray satin skirt. A sister. It was Marlene, our beautiful, kind Marlene, so frightened and alone. We delighted in each new discovery she made in her new home, each smile we could bring to her face. Stepmother watched us from the window as we played in the grass. 2 children, when before there was just one. Marlene needed us, her big brother, to protect her from the wolves that lurked at the edge of the forest. We were thirsty. Moisture disappeared from the soil as we played beneath the juniper tree behind the house. We hungered for a drink as we flitted from branch to branch, running our hands over the tree's dead-alive bones and scraping our shins on its alive-dead skin. We showed Marlene the juniper's 2 living branches, covered in emerald needle leaves, and told her how the tree makes sure that, even when it's driest, part of it will stay alive. We stayed away from the corpse of trees in the forest. Marlene taught us songs from the fall, and the world quieted as she sang. Mother bird pushed me out of the nest. Father bird said I tasted the best. Sister bird, with her robin's red breast, put me in the tree to lie and rest. Tweet, 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 what a beautiful bird am I. Marlene was our little bird, and we knew that when she flew, she would be glorious. We grew thinner. It hadn't rained in many moons. Stepmother waited at the window for father and the meager purchases he made at the market. She gazed at our dried-up garden and howled. At night, stepmother's eyes reflected the yellow moon. She divided our portions carefully at supper, giving Marlene the odd piece. Her pupils waxed and waned, becoming large with love as she gazed at Marlene, and narrowing to a hungry crescent in which we could see our reflection. In the morning, stepmother kept us inside when Marlene went out to play. She asked us to fetch an apple from the trunk in the pantry. "But it is summer," we said. "We only have apples in autumn." She asked us again. "But, stepmother," we said, "the apples are rotten." She asked us a third time, and we went. The lid of the trunk was heavy, made of juniper and edged in gold. Stepmother brought it with her from the fall. She said the junipers in the fall weren't like ours. They were green and stood straight and proud. Hers had berries, she said, fingering the juicy red bead she wore around her neck as a reminder of her home. She said that our juniper was a tangle of bones. She didn't see the two branches still fighting for life, still blooming even when the grass around the tree had dried up and wilted. We opened the trunk and gazed down at the remnants on the bottom. A large fly stared up from its perch on a moldy apple core. We told stepmother that there was nothing left. "Scrape out the muck," she said. We felt her presence hot on our neck as we leaned over. The smell of decayed fruit invaded our nostrils. Our eyes watered, blurring our vision. We heard the creak of hinges, felt a rush of air. Then we saw only dark. Surprised and disjointed, we smelled the cadaverous fruit mixed with something new, warm, and wet. Splinters of wood bored into our skin as we were dragged out of the room. We thought we might be dead. It was a strange sensation being in two places at once. Our head was still in the chest, but our heart was moving away and I had become we. Our cheek pressed against the apple muck. In the kitchen, cold, sharp, smooth, penetrated, we became us, us, us. Pinpricks as the fly climbed up the side of our nose and stared into our unseeing eyes. Overheat, warm, wet, then hot, bubbling, melting, firming. We were together, boiling over flames. We thought we heard Marlene shouting outside, "Father!" Smooth, sharp, warm, we are divided down and down. We could hear father laughing loudly and imagined him ruffling Marlene's hair as she gazed up at him with glee. We heard the tinkle of knives and forks against the table and soft, glancing footfalls coming into the pantry, Marlene saying something about dessert. She hummed as she lifted the latch and opened our heavy lid. Her shriek echoed down the hall. Stepmother, suddenly behind her, clapped a hand over Marlene's mouth. "He lost his balance," stepmother whispered in her ear. "It was a terrible thing. We must not tell father, or he will be stricken." Marlene's tears trickled down her face. When stepmother let her go, she reached into the chest and pulled us out. Marlene cradled our head to her chest. "I didn't eat dinner," she whispered urgently in our unhearing ear. "I didn't eat." She put her scarf over our face, covering us with a swath of bright red silk from the fall, and carried us past stepmother away from the chest. Father, seated at the table, asked Marlene what she was holding. "A pretty little bird," she told him. "His mother pushed him out of the nest, and he's hurt and scared, but I will care for him outside by the juniper tree." Father, red and bloated with meat, called for more stew. Marlene reached into the stew pot and gingerly picked out our bones. She sang, "Mother bird pushed me out of the nest. Father bird said I tasted the best. Sister bird with her robin's red breast put me in the tree to lie and rest. Tweet, 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 what a beautiful bird am I." With our bones, long and thin, in her apron pocket, she went outside. She lay us beneath the juniper tree and kissed our forehead as our blood drained into the earth. Little Marlene, now standing so tall, covered us with grass and dried flowers. Night fell. We were alone in the dark. I am infused with something new, something for which I have no name. I can feel it growing, glowing within me. For 6 days, the girl comes and sits under my branches, talking to the bones. Each day she brings a small cup of water which she pours onto the ground next to the bones. My roots spread across the field, into the forest, and under the riverbed. This water could not have escaped my notice, yet while my roots find only hard-packed earth, the girl comes each day with her small wooden cup filled to the brim. On the 7th day, the girl brings the woman with her. The woman's gray skirts are dulled from wear and time. The new feeling rushes through me, and I'm able to put a name to it. This is love. This woman and I are the same, 2 saplings cut from the same mother tree. We know what it is to make a sacrifice. She is strong, and I am weak. I can draw from her. The girl points to the ground where the wind has blown the grass off the bones. A fly stares up at the woman from the skull, gazing at her with its glassy lenses. The woman is haunted. I have been haunted too. My children, my branches, are twisted and bent, no longer alive but still clinging on. A sacrifice had to be made. The woman reaches a hand up to grab my trunk as she wavers. I'm overwhelmed with my love for her. With a surge of energy, I reanimate my long dead arms and hug the woman to me. She screams, struggling against my branches. She will not calm until we are one. I open my trunk and draw her inside. Her screams quiet as we come together. I feel her strength within me and know now that I will survive. I return the lifeblood to my living arms and lightly brush the hair on the top of the girl's head. Her face twitches upwards and she walks away. I send down a new route. Yes.